Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be talking about the Maxigun. And oh boy, I've been waiting for this one. And if you want to get it for yourself, it's in the Python Commandos on the last page, so you better get to farming. Has a cooldown of 410 seconds, it's a support weapon, it's a backpack, and it has medium armor penetration.
Oh, but Gundam Boy,
Minigun! Ow. Let's take a look at it in-game. Something you need to note about the Maxigun is that it can't fire without its backpack. It doesn't have an internal magazine. Even when you're holding R and, sample, all the ammo is stored in the backpack of the minigun, which means you only need to replace the backpack if it's running out of ammo, not the gun. And it's a pretty straightforward weapon. You pick it up and you rip and tear until it's done. You will have to keep in mind that it has a lot of kick when it fires, and it has a pretty slow turn. But this is just another day for us heavy machine gun enjoyers. But you can counter the drawbacks of this weapon with both the fortified armor passive and peak physique. While fortified provides a better, more consistent shot, you'll still have to deal with the slow drag of the gun, but you have more precision overall, allowing you to hit smaller targets with ease. And probably one of my favorite ways to use this Maxigun. Then you could use something like peak physique, which allows you to flick between targets way quicker and fire your gun. One ammo box can refill at least 200 ammo, and if you grab at least 4 more, you can get back up to 750. Or if your teammate with the supply pack gives you some ammo, then you can get 400 from them. Teammates beware, because the Maxigun user is going to be hungry for ammo. I know it's easy to want to mow down everything you see in sight, but you might want to save it for when there's a bit more enemies, and then you can start ripping it. Instead, use the shotgun on the scavengers. If you start using the Maxigun, you should keep in mind that you have no mobility whatsoever. Once you start firing this gun, you can no longer walk or dive. The dive button will make you immediately go prone. To get around this though, you can dive and then fire, allowing for some evasive maneuvers while shooting, but you have to dive and then fire for it to work. With this limitation on your mobility, it's important to keep in mind where you're positioned, because where you decide to plant your feet can decide whether you'll be winning or you'll be walking back to pick up your gear. The overall combat role of the Maxigun isn't too unfamiliar from weapons we've seen before. Similar to the machine gun family of weapons, the Maxigun fits right in, but functioning more as a sudden burst of damage. Overall, it's a chaff clear. However, with its medium pen, it's not capable of facing off with heavier units, meaning it's perfect for only clearing out chaff level enemies.
Just getting rained on by body parts.
Using it in cities can provide more cover than if you're using it in the open, or you can bring your own cover with things like smoke or the shield generator. And on defensive missions, I have to say it's a pretty good option for holding off against the waves of chaff units, because you have easier access to ammo supply and you don't have to run too far. And some of the enemies will just walk into your barrel, or you can cosplay as another Gatling sentry and hold off the lines of enemies. Even F2's cosplaying as a sentry.
Hello? What an unfortunate place for you fools to spawn, right in the middle of all the Gatling. They didn't even get.
Dude, welcome to bullet hell. After how much I've been playing with the Maxigun, I'll have to say its viability is solely dependent on what front you're playing on. It can perform pretty well on both the Illuminate and the bug front, with the bug front having a bit more heavies, but it won't do too good on the Automaton front as it requires you to play very cautiously. And there's just in general more heavy armored enemies. But you're not completely screwed if you want to bring it to something like the bot front, as we have a pocket ultimatum, a variety of anti-tank grenades, and a bunch of red stratagems we could play with. Let's just say on the Illuminate front, the Maxigun is the complete counter to the concept of a zombie horde, and since you can lay prone with it, it means you can steal all the ankles of all the voteless. And while it's pretty damn effective at killing things like overseers, it still has problems going up against each variant. The overall weight of the gun's drag makes it a little difficult to chase after elevated overseers. Q-tip overseers can actually block some of your rounds, but their shield isn't strong enough to withstand all the ammo, bursting their shield like a goddamn zit. And since you have the same mobility as a Gatling sentry, Crescent overseers can hit you with a good amount of damage if you're not paying attention. If nobody's killing the Crescent overseers, you're gonna want to start moving soon. Bullet sponge meets bullet hell, as the Maxigun is pretty good at killing flesh mobs, because in this instance it only took 3 seconds to kill a flesh mob. Going up against something like the Harvester though, it could be a little bit more tricky, since the Maxigun requires you to stand still, and its 2 attacks that it has access to are capable of one-shotting. But if you start at range, be sure to aim for the leg joint or the eye. And since something like the Leviathan has lasers just like the Harvester, you should watch out for these units as well. On the Illuminate front, the Maxigun is a perfect option, since it is known as the machine gun front, since every enemy can be killed by at least a machine gun, with the Harvester being the most armored enemy here. As long as you can keep your spacing between you and your enemy, you should have no problem using the Gatling gun on this front, and would probably be the best place to practice using it. There's just so many soft targets. Be sure to practice your placement specifically, as certain enemies may push you and require you to move around, and you can't fire this weapon without not moving, so find a nice spot. Moving on to the bug front, thank God Arrowhead made this weapon medium pen, because it wouldn't have been able to deal with the most intimidating enemy of them all, the Hive Guard!
Gundam 5 Hive Guards to the south!
Oh! Oh! The Maxigun performs very similar to how it does on the Illuminate front, with a wider variety of enemies that you'll have to go up against. But with those big-ass heads, it means nothing, as they're all turned into mulch. Shit, Brood Commanders can't even get a word in before I mow their face right off. Mind you, a second hasn't even passed before his head popped. If you know you're about to enter a combat engagement, it's best to start attacking before they get in the range, taking out the enemies that are closest, and then slowly sweep back to the ones further away. But if an enemy does sneak up on you, they aren't safe. But it's not the chaff that's the problem, it's the heavies. Enemy units like Chargers and Bile Titans pose the biggest threat to you when you're walking around with this gat. But there are a few options for taking down Chargers like the Ultimatum or Thermites. You could aim for the ass of the Charger, but it could be a little bit difficult if you don't have anything to restrain his movement. Otherwise, they'll just kinda walk over you. Stop ignoring me! And same thing goes for the Bile Titan, but unlike the Charger, you can't break his ankles as he steadily chases after you to hork on you. You could aim for its underside to really kill it, but since you can't move with the Gatling gun, you'll have to be in the right spot to really get it. While aiming for the guts on the side is technically safer, it's not the best since the legs get in the way of your shots. Rather, grow a big pair of giant hairy balls and go underneath and shoot this thing right in its nutsack. However, it's not the best option, because have you ever tried killing a cow with a butter knife? Oh yeah, and then there's the Impaler, who dies. Yeah. Now let me just say, when it goes onto something like the bot front, you'll have to think about it as using like a machine gun on the bot front, however, with the extra downsides. I personally will not be bringing the Gatling gun on this front just because there's a lot more heavy units that you'll be going up against, but don't let the 24-year-old YouTuber that sits around all day playing video games and make videos tell you otherwise. But you will be going from killing giant base cannons to killing off the lonely berserker. Positioning is going to be the most important on the Automaton front, so be sure to find some cover to break up the angles for enemies to attack you in. And always anticipate a counterattack so that you can position yourself for another round. All it takes is one enemy to walk around your defensive line to juggle you around. Automaton troopers, well, they're absolutely screwed, but they can pose a threat to your accuracy if you're not paying attention. Scout Striders being weak from the waist down makes them really easy targets as well. And we already know what happens to things like berserkers. Same thing happens up against something like a Devastator, instant annihilation. The only enemy that'll challenge the Maxigun is the Heavy Dev shield, otherwise they will die just like any other. It's more of a matter of can you hit him in his little face. And since you'll be doing a lot of moving, keep a primary that you can trust to take down something like a Devastator. Yes, I know the double freedom has been in a lot of these shots, but it's really good. Don't forget to bring some heavy counters on this front, since there's a lot of enemies like Hulks, Factory Striders, War Striders, and tanks. While it is capable of taking down all these heavy units at their weak point, it will just take too long.
I want to see you ragdoll me. Shoot me with the missiles.
This looks different.
Making it not really worth it in the long run. It sorta has a place on the bot front if you don't mind all the drawbacks to it, but if you're playing in close team dynamics with an anti-tanker nearby, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, unless your anti-tanker can't aim. Aim.
I am trying,
Red aiming thing,
man.
red aiming thing. Shoot him, shoot
Red,
him.
aim better.
I'm just over here clearing objectives and I'm out here.
everyone's screaming at me.
Of course that would hit red. The type of battles you'll engage with on the Automaton front and the enemies you'll face off with, I probably wouldn't recommend the Maxigun here, especially for newcomers. But there are a lot of anti-tank counters that you could bring along to help alleviate the problem. You can also pair the Maxiguns with the FRV, and you can basically turn into a pseudo APC. But if you're playing with friends, keep in mind that accidents tend to happen. Get out! Get out! Get out! Oh, I thought it was gonna be fine. It was fine for half a second. But you practically eliminate the weapon's weakness of not being able to move by having two of them in a car. It's behind us. It's behind us.
Oh, perfect angle. I am not hitting. Where is my crosshair?
We both hit a rock. Overall, I'd have to say I'm a pretty big fan of the Maxigun. It puts in a lot of fun into the game, but it is a pretty weird place in terms of viability, especially if you're very nitpicky about your gear. Because functionally, it's a machine gun that fires faster with a supply pack embedded into it, without having to worry about having 2 stratagem slots taken up to make it work. But I think it's a pretty fun weapon. But you have to also keep in mind that I can play this game all day. I did see a lot of people who are upset that you can't walk, and that people who are upset that it's not heavy pen. I don't really care about the heavy pen claim because people would want the Peacemaker to have AP10, but in regards to the mobility, I would have liked this scene at least being able to walk if you're wearing peak physique. But what do you guys personally think about the Maxigun? Is it good? Is it fun? Is it bad? Is it over? But leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.